Well, there is this little small gang of people who once made lots of money in D.C. as Republican political consultants, pollsters, party insiders, and commentators, and they really hate President Trump. Now, they've always been tied to the establishment of D.C., or the swamp, as some people like to call it. They once were the toast of the town because they were joined at the hip with the well-established elites who really didn't have deep convictions about issues. They just enjoyed playing for the Republican team because the pay was good, and they got invited to all the cool parties in Georgetown, Manhattan, and Hollywood. And they were also the reason that nothing ever changed or was even challenged in Washington. They worked for candidates and elected officials who pretended to care about issues like the sanctity of life, our alliance with Israel, the middle class, jobs leaving the U.S. for China or Mexico, and health care. But in reality, neither they nor the candidates or elected officials they worked for really cared at all. Now, we voted for them because our alternatives were candidates with far left positions that threatened free enterprise, the lives of unborn babies, small businesses, factory jobs, important court appointments, and much more. But the election of Donald Trump messed up their legalized looting of the political donor class. You see, Donald Trump didn't become president because he was bought and owned by the political class. He mostly used his own money to become president and really hadn't had to do a lot of the bidding of the typical political hacks. And to be honest with you, they aren't happy. In fact, he's called on very few of them for anything, and they are not going away quietly. Folks, they don't hate him because he failed to do what he said. They hate him because he did exactly what he said he would do. That's why they don't like him. Maybe you've heard of this small little group of Republican malcontents. They call themselves the Lincoln Project. I want to tell you, the so-called Lincoln Project is about as true to Abraham Lincoln as I am to Weight Watchers. Look, they love the power and the money, but when Donald Trump became president, they just didn't matter that much. Now, I got some friends who claim to be conservative, but they say they're going to vote for Joe Biden because they think President Trump is vain and vulgar. Oh yeah, the same Joe Biden caught on a hot microphone uttering a truly vulgar term when talking to President Obama about signing Obamacare, and who is cursed at the very people who attended his lightly attended events. But are elections even about a candidate's tone, his tweets, or his temperance? Sure, I'd love for all the people I vote for to be near perfect in personality, piety, and personal manners. But I care even more about whether their performance matches the promises on issues that really matter to me. Believing in the intrinsic worth and value of every human life from conception is sacred to me. And a candidate who's right about everything else, but wrong in respecting the God-given worth of every human life, is a candidate I can't and won't support. No candidate, our president, not even Ronald Reagan, has taken the number of bold, concrete steps to protect innocent human life, as has President Trump. Donald Trump has actually done more for preserving religious liberty than any president in my lifetime. I believe strongly in the First Amendment, and with it, untouchable religious liberty. Other presidents have claimed to be champions for churches, synagogues, and mosques to be free from government control, but President Trump has delivered. And most all presidents promise to create jobs, preserve middle-class jobs, but until the shutdown of the economy because of the Chinese virus, President Trump had delivered, marking record jobs for blacks, Hispanics, women, and youth, and all of that with record pay increases. And while the previous administration said the manufacturing jobs in our country would never return, they actually have come back under President Trump. He has unflinchingly stood for the Second Amendment. He's insisted that America stop being the chump for China and all of its cheating. He stood for our border security while his opponent believes in open borders. And instead of folding like a cheap tent in a windstorm in the face of violent riots and mass looting, he's called for the protection of private and public property and the arrest of anarchists who have turned streets of major cities into war zones. And by the way, he's cut 7 regulations from the backs of Americans for every new one enacted. So look, I understand why the ruling class of elitist snobs who run the D.C. swamp would vote for Biden to restore their control. But it means that the not-so-connected American will be abandoned. So I don't understand those who call themselves conservatives or even moderates voting for Joe Biden, a candidate 180 degrees from what they claim they believe, and 100% to a return for a government that's really for the elites and the swells. Donald Trump went to Washington to shake things up. His problem wasn't that he failed at that. His problem? He succeeded. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, then subscribe, and hit the notification bell below. Now, if you didn't like it, you ought to find a Ben Shapiro video to detox you with more facts.